I had asked this question to you earlier. How can you tell if your child is doing drugs? You know, as a parent, how do I know my kid's doing drugs? I have no idea.
Right.
How can you tell?
Well, there's a bunch of things to look for, and some of them are online and some of them are offline. On the online piece, one of the things that technology has done is it's made it very easy for kids to connect with one another, which can be used in a positive way or in a negative way. The slide we saw where the young man was sending text messages to his dealer is obviously a negative kind of way. And parents have said to me, look, I don't want to get in my kid's business. They have a right to privacy. And I've told them that's not a healthy attitude. The reality is there's a lot of kids dying with their privacy intact. And kids don't have a right to privacy, but we as parents, our number one obligation is to keep our kids safe. And if that means looking at their Facebook, looking at their computers, looking at the history, looking at their cell phones, looking at their text messages, by all means do it. Outside of the social networking piece of this, there's some real other basic kind of stuff. And you know, there's a number of people who have come out and said we need a back to basics approach and that we need to spend more time face to face with our kids. And when you spend that time, you begin to see changes or things that, when you take them together as a package, are pretty disconcerting. We live in a very, very busy life these days. People are working 2, 3 jobs trying to make ends meet. Everybody's running in, everybody's running out. Kids are overscheduled with activities. We don't get as much FaceTime as we used to. And that FaceTime is really critical. That FaceTime is where you learn about changes in your kids' friends, changes in your kids' moods, changes in academic performance. You might notice more money or less money. You might notice things missing around the house. You might notice a different vocabulary. For parents, additionally, when kids come home at night, having that face-to-face conversation is absolutely critical. You want to know if your kid's impaired. Heroin, kids who are high on heroin, it's a little bit harder to detect, but you can detect it. And in our gut, I think, as parents, we know when something's wrong. And the best piece of advice, besides spending more time with your kids, is trusting your gut and trusting your intuition. There's no playbook or rule book on this. Parents know their kids better than anyone else. If you think something is wrong, there's a good chance it is, and address it head on. Don't wait.
Now, like you said, with the heroin addiction, it's not that easy to tell, but you still can.
You can, and the reality is that kids, and the kids we see, typically it starts with alcohol. They come home drunk, they're smoking pot. You know, there's a part of me that says, look, if you were up when your kids came home, you'd see that they were intoxicated. You'd understand the road that your kid is beginning to go down, and you have to act affirmatively to stop that. Marijuana is easily detected. It smells.
Okay. Besides smelling, what's the other aspect of? You know, the reason I say that is because some parents might not know, and the kids might say, you know what, I was in an area where it smelled. You never know. These kids can be very creative.
You want to have a conversation. You want to judge their affect. You want to kind of look at how they're moving around the room. You want to look at their pupils. With heroin in particular, your pupils are like pinpricks. Once you've seen it, it's easy to detect from a mile away. In fact, and this probably happens to the commissioner too, I can be out somewhere and pick up on it in a heartbeat.
Wow.
So once you've seen it once, you begin to know what it looks like. But this is really basic stuff. I mean, people have said, well, it's complicated. It's really not. That if you kind of strip it down and kind of look, do I think something's wrong here? And I always say to parents, if you see a couple of those things, begin to keep at least a mental journal, because frequently we see things in isolation and in a vacuum. When you put them all together, it's a really big picture, but taken in little drips and drabs, you don't often see the scope of what's going on.
So change of friends, you know, if you're seeing a change of social circles, the way they talk, their attitude, all these things add up to
the lingo, and know where your kids are, what they're doing, who they're with, when they're expected home. Call them on their cell phones. One of the beautiful things about cell phones is you can now call your kids, and don't go for just the text messaging back and forth. You want to hear them and you want to have contact. So a lot of this is preventable with really back to basics kind of things. It's not hard. It can feel overwhelming, but this is really basic parenting kind of stuff.
Exactly, just the way we grew up.
Right.
That's exactly what it is. Now, मैं ना पूछा कि ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੱਸ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਅਗਰ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਡਰੱਗਸ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ? What is one way to know? ਅਗਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਦੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤੀ ਤਾਂ maybe you wouldn't know. ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਦੇਖੋ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਫਰੈਂਡ ਸਰਕਲ ਚੇਂਜ ਹੋ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਜਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਉੱਠਣਾ ਬੈਠਣਾ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਫਰੈਂਡਸ ਨਾਲ ਸੀਗਾ ਉਹ ਧੀਰੇ ਧੀਰੇ ਅਗਰ ਚੇਂਜ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਚੇਂਜ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਮੂਡ ਸਵਿੰਗਸ ਵੀ ਚੇਂਜ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ। ਪਰ ਆਫ ਕੋਰਸ ਅ ਨਾਰਮਲ ਟੀਨੇਜਰ ਦੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਹੋਗੇ ਕਿ ਰੈਗੂਲਰ ਮੂਡ ਚੇਂਜਸ ਆਰ ਵੈਰੀ ਕਾਮਨ, we understand that, but agar it's with a different friends of circles or friend of circles ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਅਗਰ you see these mood swings and changes, ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਕੋਈ ਗੱਲ ਹੋਏ। ਐਂਡ ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਅਗਰ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਅੰਦਰੋਂ ਪਤਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਕੋਈ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਹੈ, go with that instinct। ਅਗਰ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਲੱਗ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਕੋਈ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਹੈ, ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਹੈ, and try to address it with your child। ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਕਾਫੀ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਕੋਲੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸੁਣਦੇ ਹੋ ਕਿ you know what, it's my privacy, it's my account, it's my cell phone, it's my Facebook। yes, it's theirs, but at the same time you're still their parent। ਅਗਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੰਨਾ ਰਾਈਟ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ they can have a Facebook account or they can have a cell phone, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਇੰਨਾ ਵੀ ਹੱਕ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ you can take a look at their text messages, ਜਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ Facebook accounts ਤੇ ਦੇਖ ਲਓ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕੰਪਿਊਟਰਸ ਤੇ ਦੇਖੋ ਕਿ ਕਿਹੜੇ ਸਾਈਟਸ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਗਏ ਨੇ। ਇਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੋਏਗਾ ਕਿ what exactly ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਕਰ ਕੀ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਐਂਡ ਇਟਸ ਵੈਰੀ ਵੈਰੀ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨਾਲ ਇਨਵੋਲਵ ਹੋ। ਐਂਡ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਬੇਸਿਕ ਗੱਲ ਇਹ ਹੈਗੀ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨਾਲ ਟੈਕਸਟ, ਅਗਰ ਉਹ ਬਾਹਰ ਗਏ ਨੇ, ਟੈਕਸਟ ਉੱਤੇ ਗੱਲ ਨਾ ਕਰੋ, ਫੋਨ ਚੁੱਕ ਕੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੋ, ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੋਏਗਾ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਸਟੇਟ ਆਫ ਮਾਈਂਡ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਹੈ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਹਾਲਤ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਹੈ। ਦੈਟਸ ਵੈਰੀ ਵੈਰੀ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ। ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਅਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਈਜ਼ੀ ਲੈ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਯੂ ਨੋ ਵਾਟ, TV ਦੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ, ਬੱਚੇ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਨੇ, ਟੈਕਸਟ ਕਰਤਾ, ਵੇਅਰ ਆਰ ਯੂ। ਦੈਟਸ ਨਾਟ ਦ ਰਾਈਟ ਵੇ। ਫੋਨ ਚੁੱਕ ਕੇ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਕੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੁੱਛ ਲਓ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹੋ ਕਿੱਥੇ। ਐਟ ਦ ਸੇਮ ਟਾਈਮ ਅਗਰ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਬਾਹਰ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਸ਼ਾਮ ਦੇ ਟਾਈਮ 'ਤੇ, ਵੀਕਐਂਡ 'ਤੇ, ਪਾਰਟੀਜ਼, ਇਹ ਪਤਾ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕਿ ਵੇਅਰ ਆਰ ਦੇ ਗੋਇੰਗ, ਹੂ ਆਰ ਦੇ ਗੋਇੰਗ ਵਿਦ, ਵਟ ਟਾਈਮ ਆਰ ਦੇ ਗੋਇੰ ਟੂ ਕਮ ਹੋਮ। ਅਗਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਰਫਿਊ ਸੈੱਟ ਕੀਤਾ ਕਿ ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਤੁਸੀਂ 10 ਵਜੇ ਤੱਕ ਘਰ ਹੋਣਾ ਹੈ ਐਂਡ ਦ ਚਾਈਲਡ ਕਮਸ ਹੋਮ ਐਟ 10:30, 11, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੁੱਛੋ ਕਿ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਸੀਗੇ, ਕਿਉਂ ਸੀਗੇ। ਦੀਜ਼ ਆਰ ਦ ਬੇਸਿਕ ਥਿੰਗਸ। ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਵੱਡੇ ਹੋਏ ਹਾਂ ਇਹ ਕੁਐਸਚਨਸ ਨਾਲ, technology is a good thing, but at the same time ਕਈ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਉਹ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਹਰਟ ਵੀ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈ। ਸੋ ਮੇਕ ਸ਼ੋਰ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਸੋਸ਼ਲ ਵੈਬਸਾਈਟਸ ਨੇ, talk to your kids about it and make sure you stay in tuned with them. I know we only have a few minutes left for our show, so just the last few words, tell us how is the police department, of course, and you know, your whole department working in raising this community awareness, and where can parents go to say, you know what, my child has a problem, what do I do, where do I go for help?
Well, you know, just to recap, we have a three-pronged approach, realistically. It's our historical enforcement approach that we tailor to needs driven by intelligence.
Okay.
And the other part of it really is our involvement in education and awareness. You know, Too Good for Drugs, K through 12, very important. Important to put into the hands of educators a program that's been proven effective in reducing people's propensity to take drugs, alcohol, smoke cigarettes. Very important. Education and prevention are typically going to be cheaper than incarceration. The parental awareness campaign, in my mind, is key to this. So many people, you know, we go out and we do seminars in schools. We have partnerships with our district attorney, with our probation people. You know, we're trying multifaceted approaches, but really what we need is parents to understand that the face of heroin looks like your child, the person that occupies your home with you. The sooner you recognize that it can be your child, the better off you and your children are going to be. Have that conversation with them. Be frank, be open. If you don't have the skill set to do that, one of the reasons we partnered with Dr. Reynolds and his organization is that they do. They're essentially our portal. You know, the enforcement agency, the law enforcement agency, we don't have the resources or the expertise to deal with, you know, the real hard questions here. So Jeff and his folks are really our portal to other avenues where people can find out about treatment, can find out about education programs. And it's not just, you know, his people alone. They have the ability to reach to other people. So that's really why this partnership has been key. It's why it's been successful, and why it can be done other places too. You know, this isn't just Long Island. These conditions exist other places.
All over. Before I come back to you to find out about that, I do want to let our viewers know ਕਿ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ, ਕਮਿਸ਼ਨਰ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡੀ ਗੱਲ ਆਫ ਕੋਰਸ ਇਸ ਸਕੂਲ ਅੰਦਰ ਐਜੂਕੇਟ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ, ਅਵੇਅਰਨੈਸ ਲਿਆ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ, ਪਰ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਇਹ ਹੈਗੀ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਦੇਖੋ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਬੱਚਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ, ਐਂਡ ਦੈਟਸ ਦ ਕੀ ਥਿੰਗ ਦੈਟ ਦੇ ਆਰ ਯੂਜ਼ਿੰਗ, ਕਿ ਹਰ ਹੈਰੋਇਨ ਐਡਿਕਸ਼ਨ ਦਾ ਫੇਸ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈ ਕੈਨ ਬੀ ਯੋਰ ਚਾਈਲਡ। ਸੋ ਮੇਕ ਸ਼ੋਰ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੋ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਇਹ